Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome to a brand new video here today, and welcome to a very different style of video. For once, it's a sit down and talk kind of video, because today we're discussing a very big and important issue to my heart, but also the entire PC gaming community of F1, and also content creation as a whole on F1 on YouTube and everywhere else really, race department especially, so with PC mods in mind, because as you can see by the title, it's talking about F1 2019 PC modding being dead. Now, I have not talked about this publicly on YouTube before. I've tweeted about it briefly a few times, so if you're not following me over on Twitter or Instagram, then be sure to check me out on those socials, because I always talk about kind of issues a little bit quicker on those platforms, and then kind of wait maybe for the time is right. And now the time I feel is right to talk about it publicly on YouTube like this, about this issue, about PC modding being effectively dead on F1 2019. I'll go into detail with that. I've kind of made some notes because I want to try and have this video be concise and to the point here. But yeah, let's just get into this. So quickly, if you're unaware of what I'm even talking about by PC modding on F1, so if you have the PC version of the Formula 1 game, obviously like most PC games, you get to have the files. You download the files on Steam and you have the files on your desktop, and obviously if you've gamed at all, you know that every single PC game is able to pretty much be modified. You know, people can make mods for the game to make, you know, new kind of skins, or, you know, depending on what the game is, a whole load of a bunch of things. For F1, it's mostly skins and season mods, so that kind of involves switching the names of drivers and creating whole fantasy career modes of, you know, different teams that aren't even, you know, in Formula 1 or even exist, basically, and basically having a lot of fun with it. And so that's what F1 PC modding is. Now, effectively this year, those big season mods, as of right now, are dead. Completely dead. Will never be done, will never be made, and they just will never be coming. Now, the reason for that is because of one very simple file. Very, very simple file. It's called the language file, or localization folder, if you will. It's a language file in a folder called localization, which is in the F1 game. So that's basically just a file that has every driver's name, has every team's name, has every little, you know, every audio clip that has a subtitle to it. Every bit of text in the game is all in this language file. And since F1 2010, every F1 game has had a localization folder, and inside that folder are a bunch of language files for English, French, Brazilian, you know, goes on German, whatever, French, all the languages that are available to F1, the F1 games. Apart from, last year was the first time they didn't have that file, and this year they also don't have that file. Now, in terms of PC modding, what those files allow you to do, like I said, with the big season mods, usually what modders like to do on Race Department especially, those are where most of the mods are kind of hosted, I guess, or the popular ones that are kind of most found on Race Department, are, you know, you've got these great modders that make these season mods, which are whole package mods that change liveries of all the cars, all the helmets of the drivers, and accordingly, the names of the drivers. So, you know, all those mod career modes that I've ever done, or, you know, other content creators have done, that are on next year's season, essentially. So let's say I wanted to make a mod for F1 2019 on F1 2018. I did that. I did a Ferrari mod career on F1 2018, but it was a 2019 season mod. I had all the 2019 drivers transferred, all the helmets, all the liveries, all the cars, and that was all thanks to mods, obviously changing all the liveries, changing all the helmets, and also, crucially, changing the names of the drivers. So changing the names so that it can be Sebastian Vettel alongside Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari, and not Raikkonen anymore. So it's a very important file. You know, it's kind of ironic that right now, you can actually mod the liveries to all your heart's content. The difficult parts of modding, which is the liveries of the cars and the helmets, which are very fiddly, because the way the compression is, you have to do some very, very fiddly mapping to get the artwork of the car to work out and everything to be where you want it to be. That's the most fiddly part of F1 modding, really. And that's all fine. That's all doable. You can do that as you will. But this very simple thing of just changing some names around is, we're unable to do that right now on 2019, the game, because right now, that entire localization folder is not there. Now, like I mentioned, that was the case in 2018 as well, but then you're thinking, hang on, but you just said you did a mod career mode on that, and I did, and a lot of mods were created on F1 2018, because back in 2018, I very publicly tweeted and kind of put Codemasters on blast about that file not being there in 2018. They then direct messaged me on Twitter. We had a private conversation. They were kind of a little bit, I could tell, a little bit annoyed that maybe I, you know, tweeted so much about it publicly, anyway, so that was fair enough. Maybe shouldn't have done that. Had a private conversation, really productive conversation about letting them know, why this is an important thing, because this is the simple sticks of it. F1 is obviously a yearly sports game, and right now in the age that we are in gaming, where everything's moving so fast, so many games are live services, and attention spans are so low now because games are getting so great and such great live service, basically, that attention span is short because there's so much new stuff coming to all these new games, that sports games they don't have the capacity to have a whole year's life cycle of actual entertainment, really, most of the time, without mods. I mean, FIFA is the exact same thing. It's not just an F1 thing. FIFA is the exact same thing. If you notice in the last 2-3 years of like FIFA content on YouTube or just FIFA in general, you can't really have a lot of fun the entire year round unless you're one of those people that likes to grind Ultimate Team. You can't have fun all the year round without mods, and that's the same thing with F1. F1 as a game almost dies off at the end of the real life season, of course, because interest from the real life season peaks and interest the casual people that might want to play the F1 game. And for us hardcore people, yeah, of course, we might continue playing the F1 game, but I'm talking in a general, broad perspective, because that's what it's all about. It's all about the whole encompassing community as a whole. The F1 game, the hype for it dies down once the season ends. And then what you usually need from that period onwards till pre-season testing is you need mods to actually keep the game alive somewhat, especially in a content creation kind of sense, but also just people in the PC community. There are a lot of people that play this game on PC, a lot of people that throughout this last year for F1 2018 were so active every single week, making new mods, talking about mods they're making, talking about the game base and what they're still going to do, and new mods they're going to make every single week in, week out, because it kept it alive essentially. And so you kind of need that to keep the game going, essentially. Without that, I really do fear for what content's going to be made in the game in general. The hype around the F1 game, it's just going to die down so much by the time we get to January, February, maybe, at a push. So anyway, that's why PC mods, I feel, are very important to the F1 game cycle and to the F1 game in general in terms of keeping the game alive. And in terms of the issue now we're facing, because like I said, Codemasters DM'd me in 2018. I explained to them all of that, and they kind of saw. They're like, okay, cool, yeah, okay, we understand this. And so they actually brought it back. There was a patch, and they very on the sly just brought the localization folder back into the F1 game. It was originally just basically, it was just coded into deeper into the game, essentially into game files that you can't open. Basically, there's certain programs that people use to open the game files to actually modify these things and change stuff, but the way they encrypted it was so deep into the game files that you couldn't get them back. You could see where the files were, you could see the language file, you could see the little text of driver names, but you couldn't pluck them out because of no localization folder. So they brought them back. That was awesome. So the issue now with 2019 is this time, I obviously, it came back around. The game came out in June, and everyone in the PC community at least realized very quickly that the file is not there anymore again. So I thought, oh, not again. We're gonna have to go through this entire process again of trying to message them and trying to once again drilling that point home of why it's so important to have a file like that in the game. This time, I didn't tweet publicly about it. I went privately. I straight away messaged him privately and just said, I know last year maybe you didn't want me to air out that stuff publicly, so I've come to you straight away privately just to kind of be like, so this was an issue in 2018, we resolved it, and we came to a good ending. Basically that was kind of a win. So could we kind of perhaps potentially get that again for this game? I don't know again why it was taken out, and again I kind of re-said why this file was important, why PC modding is important, because it's almost like they forgot what we had talked about in 2018. It's not like from 2018 to 2019 things changed, and therefore it was a good idea to encode those files deeper into the game. So I explained all that once again to them. It took a little bit of a while for them to come back to me because, of course, F1 and Codemasters are very ingrained right now with F1 esports, which is fair enough. I mean, I'm part of F1 esports, obviously, with the Alfa Romeo team, so I can understand them taking some time to get back to me. But essentially, once they did eventually get back to me, the answer was a very blunt no. It just can't happen. We can't at this well, it wasn't even at this stage. Basically, just no. They can't bring those files back out. They can't bring the localization folder back out the way they did in 2018. Now, the reason why was because they said, and to kind of quote, kind of paraphrase, they said they learnt the hard way last year of bringing those files out, because apparently bringing those files out led to leaks on F1 2019. Now, there were leaks on F1 2019. There were a few content creators that made videos about those leaks. I personally did not. I found out about the leaks very early, very, very early on. But I chose not to make any videos about it because obviously I do have a bit of a good working relationship with Codemasters. I didn't want to kind of be, blow the whistle on any kind of new features in 2019. So I kept quiet about it. Unfortunately, other content creators did make videos about that, which it's fair enough because if you find them, it's fair game, really. But obviously those videos were made, and in general on the internet as well, on Twitter and stuff like that, people were posting on Twitter about certain leaks. And if you didn't know, if you were living under a rock throughout the first part of 2019, the leaks that were leaked out were essentially stuff like the F2 car, the FOM car, and the fact that F2 is going to be in the game in some kind of way, because there were certain leaks of like the names of drivers like Jack Aitken and Lando Norris found in the game files. But I want to counter this point. Now, Codemasters, the message they gave to me in terms of why they won't bring the language file was because bringing that file out was the reason those got leaked. That is not correct. That is just untrue. That is, you need to get your facts straight. So what happened, how the leaks came out was using the software to open up game files that are already right now in the game, by the way. They're still in the game right now, like things called ERPs. Obviously, you won't know what that means if you don't know what the PC files look like, but there are these files called .erps, and some of these softwares can open up those files, and there's another software that can open up even more encrypted files, and some people opened up these files, and this was before I messaged Cody's about F1 2018. This was before the language file got patched back into the game that was given to us. This was before any of that. People already found the FOM car. The FOM car, actually, so hang on. The FOM car was actually already mistakenly just left in the game file. So that wasn't even a leak. That was just lazy mistake coding in the game files. But things like the F2Cs and stuff like that, that was found by software that went into other big game files of the ERPs. And those kind of game files are very much still right now in the game. Like, they're on show on F1 2019. You download F1 2019, you open the folder, they're still there in the folder. So, Codemasters, just a pause on the argument for the language files. If you've got F1 2020 features in the game files right now as we speak, in some of those ERP folders and in some of those more ingrained encrypted folders, I would highly recommend you try and remove them, because as it is, those files are still available in PC, because obviously they make up the actual game itself. There's no way they can get rid of those files, but that's how the leaks came out. It wasn't the language files. After the language files came out, it was only a confirmation of what those leaks found, basically, but all the leaks had come out already before the language files, and to that point as well, kind of blurring the 2 points into one, and bringing those 2 points together to kind of form one here, is having coding and essentially parts of next year's game in this year's game, and using it to develop next year's game, is a very, very unconventional and odd way of making a video game. I have never heard or seen any video game ever have full-on parts of next year's game features, or like a way that you can find leaks of next year's game features in the current game. That would be like opening up FIFA 20 on PC and seeing features and game files for FIFA 21 in FIFA 20. It just doesn't happen. The same thing for Call of Duty, opening up Modern Warfare and finding out features for Infinity Ward's next Call of Duty game in 2 years' time. It's just such an unconventional way of making a game or packaging a game up, and it really, really baffles me. It really does. So I would love to maybe hear an actual official line from Codemasters maybe about that in itself, in terms of, why that is the case, a genuine explanation of, is there a big reason why they do that? I know they're a small studio, but it's still very, very odd to me, and I implore them, if this issue can't get solved in F1 2019, alright, but for next year's game, I'm begging you, please do not develop anything on F1 2021 in F1 2020. Because it would be a real shame to never have the language files again. Because that's the point here. Coming back to the original point is basically, yeah, they give me a blunt answer of no. It can't be brought forward. I don't know if that's going to be changed. But as it is right now, this one singular file that right now Codemasters is saying that can't be brought forward because they're scared of F1 2020 features being leaked, which almost confirms that there are 2020 features hidden somewhere in this game, perhaps, because they said they learned the hard way from last year. So it suggests maybe they've done the same thing again, which it's really a shame. It really is, because it sounds like they're just not going to budge on this, and they won't be able to release these files. And it's a very simple file. It's the simplest file in the world. It's not even something that is, like, I've already seen tweets that have tweeted back to me about, oh, they have more, better things to worry about. Guys, this isn't a thing they're going to have to take time and resources away. They're not going to have to take time away from patching the game and actually fixing real issues or stuff to do with esports and multiplayer to simply take this file out of an encryption and put it back, you know, for everyone to see, basically. They did it very subtly and very quickly last year. Literally, this localization file, it's still there in the game. It's just somewhere encrypted, and they just need to pull it back out and just plonk it back where it used to be for the last 8 years of F1 games. So it's not going to take time away from actual real issues. I wouldn't be making a video like this if I didn't think it was going to be something that they could do quite quickly and wouldn't be detrimental to the rest of the game in general, basically, because it won't be. So yeah, that's where we stand right now. The kind of main point of the video is to kind of just let you guys know that is why, if you kind of look forward to content coming on YouTube or race department or in general on the F1 game, if you're a PC gamer, if you are looking forward to the usual season mods for F1 2020, or talking about the elephant in the room, I've had so many tweets about, will I ever do a series like F1 My Driver ever again? Will I do something with a load of mods ever again, basically? And the real answer is, yes, I wanted to do that. I was planning on doing it on F1 2019. I actually planned out a whole 2 seasons of videos based on making a massive amount of mods and making a successor to F1 My Driver. It was meant to start about a month ago, but I had to scrap all those plans. I'm very organized with the way I do YouTube. I have a lot of my videos already planned out, like, you know, weeks in advance on Excel spreadsheets, and I had to completely remove all those plans and basically figure out what I'm going to do for the rest of the year in terms of content, because I simply cannot make a kind of series like that, because I can't make a mod like that. No one can make a mod like that without one simple language file. So it's a real shame. That's where we stand with the F1 game on PC. Content is going to be very dry on F1 2019 come February. I can guarantee that, unless this file comes back. I am very much willing to go back to F1 2018 and, you know, make mods of my own, or maybe message some modders and, you know, try and work together to make 2020 mods for F1 on F1 2018, the game, just to actually get some refreshing content when it comes to February and March and whatnot. Because, don't get me wrong, the F1 game right now, F1 2019, is still a really fun game to play. I really enjoy it still. Obviously, we've got driver transfers locally in the game, which is great, but still not the point. That's not the point of the mods. The mods is an entirely different thing. But it's still a really great game. But there will become a point where it becomes dry, and I'm telling you now, it will be around January. It will be around Feb. Doesn't matter how many of these good features boosted the game. Yeah, they boosted the game now, but the game also came out like a month or 2 earlier, so also the life cycle's already stretched out a little bit more. It's and I'm not trying to be over dramatic. It really is a really big shame and a really sad moment if this is truly the end of it. Like, if they're never going to be able to give us the language files back in the F1 game. I'm not just talking about F1 2019. I'm talking about future games. It's a real shame. It's a real shame. Obviously, yeah, they have their own agendas, Codemasters, of, you know, focusing on esports, and, you know, so maybe they don't care too much about the F1 hype, or maybe they think the hype is big enough because the hype on esports is there. But, you know, when you come to look at the actual hype of the F1 game on platforms like YouTube, which very much indicate hype for video games in general, I can just already tell this is going to be a massive detrimental factor for spreading the F1 game across a year. It just is. And it's a real shame for me personally. Also, obviously, away from just the general PC community and whatnot, for me personally, it's a big shame as well. I wasn't trying to put Codemasters on blast or anything like that with this video. I really wasn't. I really hope that at least the community manager, one of the community managers there, or someone from Cody's has watched this through. I wasn't trying to, you know, attack Codemasters and whatever. You guys know me. I love working with you guys, but it's just something that needs to be said in public because the wider YouTube community needs to know this. My viewers deserve to know why I'm not making certain series or why certain mods aren't being brought on show in the game, basically. And it's a big part of the F1 game. There's no doubt about it. PC mods are a massive pillar of F1 games now. They have been for about 5-6 years now. And it almost feels like F1 2015 now. It almost feels like that. Back when we thought F1 2015 wasn't very moddable, there was a eureka miracle moment, thankfully, on that game. Hopefully there will be a miracle moment on this game, and hopefully Codemasters can, work something out, maybe take the 2020 features that they have hidden in the game out of the game and then bring the language file out. I don't know, but yeah, that's been this video. It's a video I didn't want to make. I really didn't want to make it, but here we are. Yeah, it's a bit of a shame. Here's hoping that something can be worked out in the future. Codemasters, you know where I am. Just DM me on Twitter or email me or whatever if you want to have a further discussion about this. But yeah, I've been aarava. Yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let Codemasters know in the comments below how much you want the mods to be back as well. If you're an avid user of PC mods or you like watching PC mods on YouTube. And yeah, if you're new around here, do get subscribed. I've been aarava. Hope you enjoy the rest of the day. Goodbye.